Thank you for staying with us. It's the 63rd anniversary of Nigeria independence, and this is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Education is not just the bedrock for the development of any nation, but the best tool for citizens to light poverty. From the basic to the tertiary level, the country must get its education policy right. How has Nigeria fared in this critical sector since independence? Babaji Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf joining me, while the acting chairman of Kebbi State University Basic Education Board, SUBEB, Hassan Umar, will join us via Zoom for the discussion. Gentlemen, nice to have you. Adekunle Yusuf. Nice.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, let's start. From two universities that are independent, just two, to 264 presently, both public and private. How has this contributed to the development of the country?
Educationally, Nigeria has really grown seriously. And even when we don't want to admit, just take a look at like Nigeria 40 years ago. How many graduates can you point to in any family? Not even just graduates, how many educated people? 40 years ago, 50 years ago, in any Nigerian family, in any part of Nigeria. Today, it is very hard to see a family that has not produced at least one graduate. It's it's rare. Because you see a father who is not educated, a mother who is also not educated, having all their children, attaining, tertiary education, in their lifetime. To me, that is a wonderful achievement. Don't forget, at independence, Nigeria inherited, University of Ibadan, then an affiliate of University of London, and created its own federal university, University of Lagos. That was the first university created by indigenous Nigeria.
Really?
Yes.
That's 62.
1962. And we moved from, you remember, Elliott Commission that led to the creation of University of Ibadan in 1948, but it wasn't University of London, it was
University of London.
And when Nigeria was to attain independence, it got a status of a full-fledged university. And in 1960, at independence, the indigenous, government of Nigeria established the Sir Ashby Commission to advise Nigeria on the kind of, tertiary education we should have and all that. And that led to the University of Lagos as the first indigenous, university.
What do you call the name of the head of the commission?
Sir Eric Ashby Commission. So, and do you know, before the Ashby Commission, submitted its report, the Eastern region created its own university.
Before
that time, the regions were extremely powerful.
Effective.
Yes. It created its own university, University of Nigeria and Nsukka. And it's still standing strong today. Then, after that, the Western region followed suit, created University of Ife, what later became Obafemi Awolowo University in 1962. Then, the Northern region government did the same thing, Ahmadu Bello University. You understand me? And those were the days when you want to see Nigerian universities as centers of excellence.
Robust.
You see? And do you know many of the things that happened then? Can we have them today? I doubt. For example, take a look. When the British colonialists were living, the people said, no, we should have our own indigenous, vice chancellor. And it must be a suitable Nigerian. And Professor Kenneth Duke, an Igbo man, was the first indigenous vice chancellor of University of Ibadan. And it was widely all over Nigeria acclaimed, accepted, applauded.
Kenneth Duke.
Yes, that was 1960. And when the government, accepted the report of, Hashimi Commission and created its own first indigenous university, University of Lagos, do you know who was the vice chancellor? Professor Eni Njoku, a brilliant, human being.
The one that was doing that.
Also an Igbo man. So that time, the two federal universities in Nigeria, University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, the two federal universities, under two Igbo men. And that time, people didn't raise, there was no, people didn't raise hell. As long as it was on merit. And people saw these people were meritoriously, appointed. You understand my point? So when you look back, we have made a lot of gains, but we have also lost a lot of grants, because our centers of excellence today, what are they now? They are now centers where politicization is the order of the day, where tribalism is thriving at an alarming rate, where favoritism is the only game that people do, where nepotism. So when you see some of the troubles, the mess we contend with in the political arena, they have all graduated and moved back to our ivory to us. That's such, but we'll talk.
But actually, quite interesting background Adekunle Yusuf has given to us. Now, the first generation universities after independence, University of Nigeria, UNN, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife, University of Lagos, Unilag, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. How would you describe the impacts and the status now?
Well, those universities, at the time they were created, and a few years after their creation, were real centers of excellence. In fact, when you are talking about medical research in Africa, the University of Ibadan and University College Hospital, Ibadan, and Marere in Uganda were usually among the best. Everyone talks about them, and it is public knowledge that the King of Saudi Arabia used to come to UCH Ibadan to receive Medicare. Today, that's no longer the case. Those universities, in terms of infrastructure, have almost collapsed. And the reason for this is not far-fetched. Funding, which they enjoyed in the early years, they no longer enjoy. You could blame this partly on the fact that, unlike in 1962, at the end of 1962, when we had just 5 federal universities, today we have dozens of them. So, and with government revenue shrinking year on year, there's no way they will be able to find enough money to fund those universities the way they were funded in the past. When we were in primary school, we could recite the names of VCs of all the universities in Nigeria, including the second generation universities like Uniben, like University of Maiduguri, like University of Ilorin, and all other universities that came after the first 5, that is UI, UNN, OAU, ABU, and Unilag. We could recite their names. In fact, Adamu Beki, he was talking about the fact that in those days, VCs could come from anywhere. Adamu Beki, a Christian from the far north, was the VC in Benin, Uniben. Was the VC. It was like that. This man from Wusasa in Zaria, Professor Ishaya Audu, was also a VC in a southern university. Today, you see some communities that will say no, except you give them a VC from their
indigenous.
Yes, that they are not going to agree. And they will
federal university.
Yes, they will take up arms on account of that. That was not the case before. We have so many universities now, including private, state, and federal. One thing runs through both the state and federal universities: poor funding. And this poor funding is the reason many of those universities can't even meet their obligations. Lecture theaters are overcrowded. You need to see pictures of students receiving instruction in some of the lecture theaters. They sit on the floor. I saw pictures of some hostels. Some hostels of a federal university. And I'm like, what is going on? I was speaking with the VC, and the VC said, see, we want students to enjoy electricity so that they can study while preparing for their exam. But these courses are not going to cut us any slack. This course will demand for their money. I think it was ABU that was owing about ₦1 billion on electricity charges. And they disconnected them from public power supply until the money was paid. So the way things are now, government has to just decide what it intends to do with our tertiary institutions, the public tertiary institutions, because they are a pale shadow of what they used to be. If you don't want to fund them properly, then you have to come up with another funding module, whether you are going to get the private sector involved or get other people involved. But if you don't fund the universities, and you are seeing universities as another revenue generating agency, you can't treat them like Corporate Affairs Commission, for example, where you expect that, okay, they must deliver some money. They are not FIRS. And students don't want to agree. Students are saying, no, we can't pay. You can see what the VC of UNILAG went through. Until at some point she had to say, okay, take. Honestly. And as I speak to you, every month lecturers are leaving UNILAG and other universities. They are just they are tired of the system, because the lack of funding is causing different sectors within the university to collapse. So what the university used to do that made them the centers of excellence that they were, they can't do at this time. They are hampered by funding. Even when you say we have state universities. The other time when the resident doctors went on strike, they were complaining that some state universities were owing doctors as much as 5 months' salary. Why are you setting up universities that you cannot fund? There has to be maybe a moratorium of some sort, for some of these states that are simply they politicize even the setting up of universities. Today now, if you are privileged to be powerful in government, you say, okay, go and build a medical college for me in my hometown. People now see setting up universities in their community as dividends of democracy. That is by that your people will be happy with you. But they can't fund these universities. Effectively. There are some states can't even meet their quota in some federal universities. Yet you are setting up a small, if not for TED fund. Yes, I know a university that even they've not got the money to even build a perimeter wall around the school. The bulk of the buildings on the campus are were built by TED Fund for them. The funding is not there. For our education to improve, we have to sort out funding. We have to sort out the quality of instruction. When you look at, if we come down even to secondary and primary, you will see clearly. Was it not Erufai that set exam for teachers the other day? Their pupils passed and teachers failed. It happened also in Kwara State. This man, Bolaji Abdullahi, set exam for student, for pupil and teacher. Pupil passed, many teachers failed. So
What do they do?
that one, after they failed, he still brought them back, which is wrong. So now, if we want to talk about real progress being made, real progress is not simply setting up beautiful structures. What about the quality of instruction? Do you have qualitative teachers? If you don't have qualitative teachers, then you can't be talking about growth. Do you have equipment? Do you have infrastructure? We still need to build more classrooms, for example. You know, so it's yes, we made progress in terms of number of schools that we've created. That is good for our population. But in the area of the quality of instruction and even infrastructure, I would say that we still have a long way to go.
All right, we quickly take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more.